Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar news update video, and finally we have some positive news to talk about. We have the announcements, the cover and release dates for two books that we were expecting but haven't been officially announced just yet. Turf Wars Hardcover Library Edition as well as Imbalance Part 2. So yeah. The article is just kind of, I suppose, recapping people who aren't really aware that they're Avatar and Korra comics. There's nothing overly important in most of the actual text in this. But here's the cover for Turf Wars Library Edition. Cover is by Heather Campbell, of course, who's done the covers for all of Turf Wars. Irene Coe, who does the interiors, hasn't been doing the covers. And I was wondering if they'd give Irene Coe the cover for the hardcover, but I do like that they are giving the Heather Campbell art on the cover. If at all possible, I would really like it if they were able to get Heather Campbell on to do a full-on book. I don't know how her schedule is or anything like that, but I really liked her art in the Free Comic Book Day book, Friends for Life. I liked the Turf Wars covers. Her art much more than Irene Coe's, so I'd love to see if she could do interiors at some point. But yeah, it's a nice cover. I think the fact that they've gone Spirit World, kind of referencing the Korra and Asami, you know, relationship being a focus, Spirit World being a focus. I don't know how overly fitting this is for what the story has been, at least based on Part 1 and Part 2, because obviously Turf Wars Part 3 isn't out yet. It's out in like 3 weeks. And maybe the Spirit World will play a bigger role in Part 3, which I hope it does. But most of the actual plot of Turf Wars has been like triad focused with like Tokuga and stuff like that. Obviously Part 2 was a bit of a weird one where like they went in like the complete opposite direction from Part 1. So maybe Part 3 will bring back extra focus on Korra and Asami's relationship, and the Spirit World will come back into play, and maybe the triads aren't that big of a thing, but we have to wait and see. I do like the image. I just sort of question if it really sort of is the most fitting, mainly in regards to the setting, because the fun in the Spirit World is like the first little bit of Turf Wars Part 1. But I get it. This is probably the image people want on the cover, even if it's not the best representation, because I don't think most of the hardcovers do the greatest job of presenting exactly what's going on. It's more of like, these are the main characters involved and a rough idea about what the plot is based on what's happening here. The Spirit Dragon is kind of like, hasn't been the biggest focus of the story, but it's a nice visual thing for the Spirit World to have a notable spirit, especially a friendly spirit. Then we have Imbalance, and here is the Imbalance Part 2 cover by Peter Wortman, who is the interior artist. Not much to say, basically because we know very little about Imbalance full stop. We haven't got really any extra context basically for what it's about beyond the usual stuff that I think they mention here. You know, it'll take a look at the Bender versus non-Bender conflict that sprung up in the small town of Cranefish, and they're attempting to solve the problem. Same main characters, you know, Aang, Sokka, Toph, Katara, there's Momo. And then, okay, Factory, you know, plumes of smoke. Will they go for the environmental kind of theming again? And obviously this kind of destruction here, and I think the idea is that this town is meant to be fairly close to, I think, Republic City, because they're like the mountains in the back that like I think Tarlok would have taken Korra to when he kidnapped her. So maybe this one will actually move towards very like expanding out, like these are actually the borders of like where the world is really expanding out and Republic City becoming a thing. But yeah, not too much to say here. Maybe this will be a little bit more have more meaning to us once we get Imbalance Part 1. But the last thing to cover is the dates. So here we go. Turf Wars Library Edition is on sale March 26th, 2019. They're saying it'll be available for pre-order on Monday, and Imbalance Part 2 goes on sale April 16, 2019. Again, will be on pre-order on August 6th. The problem is, like, based on everything that happens, like there was a delay to Imbalance Part 1 last week. Why should we believe this date, which is, wait, what's this? April 16, 2019 is like, what, that's like it is like in around like 4 months after it, so like that would make sense. That 4 months was the like Team Guru schedule, where like you can guarantee that more or less to the day it'd be 4 months between books, meaning that from start to end of a series you're basically having 8 month wait, 4 months to get to part 2, and then 4 months between part 2 and part 3. I assume that's what they're aiming for here, but there's been so many delays, like what's to say these books won't get delayed. The only thing that I think is potentially going for this is that they are announcing these dates for new books that haven't been properly announced before, when maybe they should have been already. The fact that they're kind of almost leaving them a little late means that they maybe have the dates kind of hammered in a little bit more, but I don't really know for sure. And the final thing I think really with this is to just, you know, take a look at the calendars and really note that these are the like mass market dates. These are the Amazon dates that they're clearly getting a preview of. In terms of what these books are actually going to be released on, March 26th is, as you can see here, a Tuesday. Comics aren't released on Tuesday. So the way it always works is you go back 13 days, basically 2 weeks, but because comics are released on a Wednesday, it's on the Wednesday. So March 13th is actually going to be the release date for the Turf Wars Library Edition. And then what do we have here? April 16th for Imbalance Part 2. That is actually April 3rd. 2019 is going to be when Imbalance Part 2 is actually scheduled for comic book stores at this point. So just be aware of that. That's what I always say to people when you find dates for comics. Make sure to look up like that you're not looking at the like mass market date. If you were planning to get your book from a comic book store, make sure you know the date that it's out and that it's on a Wednesday. So that's just one thing to note here. That yeah, these are mass market dates. Take away 13 days and you have when it's actually out. March 13th and April 3rd is when the books are actually going to be out. The last thing I will mention is that it is weird that we get this news, but we still don't have preview pages for Turf Wars Part 3 when the book is out in like just under 3 weeks. Like it'll be 2 weeks by the time we get to Wednesday next week. So I don't think they can leave it too long, because they're doing, isn't like Iron Co, Mike and Brian are doing like a signing where the book is being like on sale early at a special store. I think the Gallery Nucleus thing that they tend to do. Which is on the 11th. It's either the 11th or the 13th. I keep forgetting. But like, it'd be really weird that like a decently sized group of people will have the book on that day, but we potentially won't even have preview pages by then. So we're still waiting for that. That book isn't obviously out yet. Imbalance obviously delayed into December, I think, at this point. Team Avatar Tales in January. On the other side of things, if these dates stick, it looks like we could be getting a little bit more of a consistent kind of turn of releases, because them putting Imbalance Part 2 on this on April means that they're planning the 4-month thing, which Turf Wars obviously didn't do at all, got nowhere near it. So to have us get to a point where like we are going to have a book in August, then a book in December, then we're going to have a book in March, January, I forgot, then March, then April, then this would realistically mean that August 2019 is when Imbalance Part 3 will probably be scheduled. And then there's the hope, of course, that we get some sort of announcement about what is next for Core Comics, and that will be something that happens kind of in between then. And then there's always the hope that Free Comic Book Day we have another Avatar or Korra free comic, and that will be in May. So 2019 could be what gets Avatar comics back on track, but at the same time, as positive as this is, getting to see these kind of really cool covers and so on, the dates, like, in a way, why should we believe the dates based on what's happened? So I'm positive because it's really cool that we have these covers, but I'll also note that with Imbalance, what is there to say? So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on the announcement of these books, the dates, what you think of the art, and potentially with Imbalance what you think this means for the story. But yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.